Hello everyone, welcome back to the CBAP practice questions series. In this video, we are going to work through the CBAP exam style questions 41 to 50, and they are fully aligned with the BABOK guide version 3. I want you to know that these are scenario-based questions designed to test how well you think like a business analyst, not how well you memorize the definitions. If you are preparing for the CBAP exam, revising for the ECBA, or you are sharpening your BABOK decision-making skills, you are in the right place. Let's jump straight into the next 10 questions. And yes, some of them are intentionally tricky. So let's move on to the next question. Question 41. During solution validation activities, a business analyst reviews an issue raised by stakeholders and determines that addressing it would alter previously approved requirements. Before recommending whether the change should proceed, what should the BA do next? Okay, so what should the BA do next? Um, The BA reviews an issue, discovers that addressing that issue is going to impact already approved requirements. So before the BA implements the change, what should the BA do next? A, reject the issue since approved requirements should not be modified. Not really, not really. I'll just put an asterisk at this, not really. I'll say no to this. B, review risk management documentation to assess exposure. No. So this is an issue that has been reviewed. So the issue has already happened. But to solve that problem would affect our requirement. So this is not about risk management. Identify the underlying cause of the issue. This has already been done. So remember that the BA determines that addressing it. So the BA already has done some form of analysis or root cause analysis on this problem. So this cannot be the answer. Analyze the effects of the change across related requirements. Exactly. Because remember, the question is, what does the BA do next? So you have a solution to an issue, but that solution will affect approved requirements. You need to know what the impact is. You need to know the effect of that change across all your requirements. So that is the right answer. So let's see if we got the answer. Answer B, awesome. I hope you got that. That seemed easy. So let's move to the next one. Question 41. An organization has entered into a fixed deadline agreement to deliver a regulatory reporting solution. During planning, the business analyst learns that a critical domain expert will not be available. So a domain expert will not be available for a significant portion of the analysis activities. And no alternate expert exists. So there's no alternative. The delivery date cannot be changed due to contractual obligations. What should the BA do next? A. Defer requirements elicitation activities until the expert becomes available. No, you just cannot delay. You just cannot delay until I think there needs to be some analysis done. So I'll just put a dot on this for now. Proceed with detailed analysis with using assumptions and validate later. No, no, you can't do that. So let me put an asterisk to this. This seems like a pretty difficult question. Renegotiate contractual deliverables to accommodate expert availability. Well, yeah. So they are very, very close answers. So let's see what the last one says. Treat the stakeholder on availability as a risk and adjust the analysis approach. Excellent. I will take this as the right. I will take this as the right answer. So treat the stakeholder on availability as a risk. So remember, we note we know that the stakeholder will not be available. Remember, this is happening during planning. We know the stakeholder will not be available. Exists. and the delivery date cannot be changed due to contractual obligations. Okay, so um, let's look at why A, B, and C is wrong. Deferring the requirement elicitation activities until the expert becomes available jeopardizes the contractual agreement. That's for C. So that's why that is wrong. Proceeding with detailed analysis, assumption, and validate later. You are still doing work without the expert being there. So that would not work. So remember, take this unavailability as a risk, flag it as a risk, and um, that will be the right answer. So in the comments, let me know what you think if you disagree with that. Well, let's see what the answer really is. The answer is D. Yes, treat the stakeholder and availability as a risk. Stakeholder availability constraint should be identified as risk and addressed by adapting the business analysis approach to manage uncertainty while we are meeting fixed contractual commitments. Okay, let's move to question 43. You're doing a good job. Midway through an analysis phase, a business analyst is asked to evaluate risk that could affect the quality. So you are asked to evaluate risk that could affect the quality and reliability of business analysis outcomes. Some of the information gathered so far has not yet been validated with stakeholders. To evaluate the risk that will affect quality, and some of the information gathered so far has not been validated. Okay, so which is not an input to assessing risk? So you should see, okay, let's go through the options. A, potential value of solution. Potential value of solution um, is an input to assessing risk. So that cannot be the answer. Please note that the question is saying which is not. Please note that. So the potential value of the solution could be an input to assessing risk. Prioritized requirements. Prioritized requirement is so how you give priority to your requirements could be a way of assessing risk. Because if you don't prioritize properly, you might get the wrong solution. So that cannot be the right answer. Documented change strategy. Yes. You know what? Documented change strategy is a guideline and tool. It is not an input to assessing risk. So let's look at the last one. Internal and external enterprise influences. Exactly. If you have external factors that can influence your project, they could bring in some risk into your project. So that is not the right answer. The right answer is documented change strategy. Documented change strategy is a guideline and tool according to the BABOK. So it is really not an input to risk assessment. It is under the guideline and tools, like I mentioned earlier. The documented change strategy um, A documented change strategy is not an input to assessing risk during business analysis. Risk assessment focuses on understanding uncertainties that may affect achieving the desired future state before and while shaping the change approach. Now, according to the BABOK, for the task risk assessment, the inputs are business objectives, enterprise influences, potential value, and prioritized requirements. Change strategy is not one of them. So I hope you got that. Let's see what the answer is. The answer is C. Awesome. So let's move to the next question, 44. An organization is using a highly structured delivery approach that requires formal approval for every change. Okay, so very structured every change to business requirements. As the initiative progresses, the volume of requested changes increases, causing delays because approvals must be escalated to a single decision maker who has limited availability. What should the business analyst recommend to improve handling of requirement changes? So we have a decision maker that is not always available, and that is causing delay. Review and adjust the business analysis governance approach. Now, remember, governance is about approvals, it's about decision making. So, if we have a decision maker that has limited availability, we need to go review our governance approach and make adjustments. So, this is clearly the right answer, but let's look at B. Assign change approval authority to the executive sponsor. No, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. There's an agreed, remember, you've done your governance approach. So you don't just sign. You need to review. Now, this might be the end result at the end of the day, but you need to do that review first. Allow the BA approve low impact changes without oversight. The BA is not a governing authority, so you can't just approve those things. Reject change requests that does not align with the delivery approach. No. Remember, when you have issues, the first thing to do is to review first and understand. So review and adjust the business analysis governance approach is the right answer. Let's see if we got that right. Awesome. We got that right. That is A. Let's move to question 45. If you've gotten this far, great job. Well done. Let's keep going. Several weeks after a data analytics solution was put into production, business users report that re- business users report that reports generated by the system are inconsistent and occasionally inaccurate. Okay. The business analyst is asked to determine why the solution is not meeting the expected quality levels and to pinpoint the underlying causes of the issue. Okay, so we see a lot of things here. Business analyst is asked to pinpoint the underlying cause. Which technique should the BA use? Process modeling. No, so remember, process models just describe workflows or business workflows. They don't identify underlying causes. So that's the wrong answer. Stakeholder interviews. Stakeholder interviews just gather perceptions and requirements and help us to elicit requirements. So that cannot be the answer. Root cause analysis, exactly. So root cause analysis is used to identify the root cause on the underlying cause of defects. So that's the right answer. Data dictionary. Data dictionary defines data elements but does not explain why outputs are incorrect or inconsistent. So that's the wrong answer. So the right answer is root cause analysis. Quite a simple one. Let's move on. See, I hope you got that answer. Question 46. A business analyst is exploring how a proposed solution may be perceived by different stakeholder elements before finalizing design recommendations. The BA plans to engage a small representative set of stakeholders in a facilitated discussion to compare expectations, surface differing viewpoint, and assess potential or perceived value. Which technique should the BA use? One, facilitated workshop. Yeah, facilitated workshop, but let's see if we have a better answer. Structured questionnaire. No. So remember, you are engaging a small questionnaires are usually for large dispersed stakeholders to get information. So it cannot be the questionnaire. Perform individual stakeholder interviews. No. So remember, you are engaging a small representative set of in a facilitated discussion. So it cannot be individual. And D is focus group. Yeah, so it's focus group. So it cannot be facilitated workshop. It's focus group. And focus group enable the BA to gather qualitative insight about perceived value and expectation from a large targeted stakeholder subset through structured discussion and interaction. So the answer is focus group. I hope you got that. Let's see if we're correct. Awesome. We're correct. Great job. Great job, everyone. Let's move on. After completing several, that's question 47. After completing several elicitation sessions, a business analyst reviews the documented requirements to ensure they comply with the organization's established business analysis standards, templates, and quality criteria before sharing with stakeholders for confirmation. Which state is the BA tempting to move the requirements into. One, A, accepted. No, it is not accepted because acceptance occurs after formal stakeholder approval. And we are not there yet. We are we've reviewed the requirements to make sure they align with standards, templates, and quality criteria before sharing with the stakeholders, so it can be accepted. Validated, no. Validated confirms that the requirements support business needs and value, not compliance to standards and templates and quality criteria. So it cannot be validated. Verified, yes. So verified is the right answer because it ensures that requirements meet organizational standards, like you see here in the templates. It ensures that they meet quality criteria. It ensures that they meet the organizational rules. So that is verified, verification. So anytime you see verified, remember quality criteria, standard quality criteria. So that's the right answer. The last one is D, and approved. No, it's not yet approved. We've not even confirmed. So the right answer is verified. T. Let's see if we're correct. Great job. We're correct. So great job. Keep going. We have three more questions. We are getting there. Well done. I'm sure if you keep going through this, it makes you better. If you fail some questions, don't get discouraged. It's a good sign. It's an opportunity for you to learn and get better at this. During the rollout of a new customer support system, the business analyst identifies a risk that system outages may so identify the risk that system outages may increase during peak hours due to staff unfamiliarity with the new processes. To reduce the likelihood of the impact of this risk, the BA recommends mandatory training sessions support documentation before go live. This is an example of which type of risk treatment. Okay, so this is about risk. A, transfer. No, it can be transfer. You know what? Let's go to the transfer, mitigate, accept, and avoid. But it can be transfer because transfer fits the ownership of a risk to a third party. Here the B is recommending mandatory training, so it can be transfer. We are not transferring the risk to any third party. The next D is mitigate. The mitigate is a very good answer. And mitigate just reduces the likelihood or impact of a risk by implementing preventive or corrective actions rather than eliminating them. And we've identified the risk and the BA proposes mandatory training. So that's a way of eliminating the risk entirely. So let's look at C. C is accept. Accept means you are not taking any action. You're just monitoring the risk. You're not doing anything. So that does not align with the question. And avoidance just means eliminate the risk entirely by changing plans. And that is not what we are doing. So the right answer is B, mitigate. Let's see if you're correct. Also, we're correct on that. So I hope you've gotten the definitions of transfer, mitigate, accept, avoid. So if you're not clear, you can pause and go through it again, and you get a better understanding of why that answer is correct. Question 49. Two more questions. After a new standardized operational process is rolled out, performance report show that most staff complete the process faster than before. That's good. However, a small number of individuals consistently take significantly longer to complete the same task. Okay, a majority does it faster, but we have a small subset that is having issues. Preliminary system records indicate that these individuals encounter exceptions at certain steps. What should the business analyst recommend first to improve overall performance? Okay, reinforce compliance by issuing refresher instructions to all staff. Remember, it's just a small subset, so you cannot be doing this to all staff. So this cannot be the answer just because of that. Redesign the process to remove the steps where exceptions occur. Remember, this is happening to a small subset, so you can't do that to the whole process. So that's the wrong answer. C, engage directly with the affected individuals to understand the issues. Anytime there's a problem, try to understand the root cause. Why is it happening? And because this is happening to a small subset, you should be meeting with them. You should be engaging with them. Maybe do an observation, passive observation and active observation to see why they are encountering those issues. So this is most likely the right answer, but let's see me first. Expand the rollout to additional teams to validate the performance trend. No. Best answer is C. Let's see if we're correct. Awesome, we're correct. Great job. We got that. Let's move on to the last question. We're there. We're there. We're almost there. A business analyst is supporting a regulatory driven initiative that requires multiple decisions throughout the business analysis effort. So it's a regulatory driven initiative. Several key stakeholders are consistently unavailable, delegate meetings to junior staff, or provide delayed feedback. The BA is concerned this behavior will affect not only delivery timelines, but also the effectiveness of decision making. Which aspect of the initiative is most directly impacted by poor stakeholder availability and engagement? Defect resolution efficiency? No. Remember, we've not even delivered the solution in the first place, so it can't be defect resolution. Requirements approval? Absolutely. If we don't have key stakeholders, remember, you mentioned key stakeholders are not available, then we cannot get our requirements approved. Let's look at C, reusability of business analysis artifacts. Reuse depends on documentation quality and standards, not on stakeholder availability. So it cannot be this. Let's look at the last one, accuracy of test execution results. Test execution results accuracy is driven by the test design and solution quality, not stakeholder engagement levels. So this cannot be the answer. So the right answer is the requirement approval, because stakeholder availability and willingness to engage directly affects the BA's ability to obtain timely reviews, decisions, and sign off. So let's see if we are correct. Awesome, we're correct. The answer is D. Great job. I'm really glad that we got to where we are right now. Well done, well done. And this just wraps up our question 41 to 50. If you made it through all this, you are building the exact kind of thinking that the CBAP exam is testing: structured, situational, and BABOK aligned. Let me know in the comments which questions challenge you the most and why. That reflection is part of how you look into the business analysis and the CBAP mindset. If you are following the full series, our next set of questions will be 51 to 60, where we continue to increase the complexity of the questions. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next set. And as always, pause, think first, then validate your reasoning against the BABOK. I'll see you in our next video. Thank you.